Okay, welcome everybody. We're gonna get started here in just a few moments. Big day here at Endor Labs. If you had a look at our socials or LinkedIn or got an email from us, we had a big product launch today. We launched a few of our exciting AI features, and also we just raised a $93 million Series B, which we're excited about. But what we're going to do today is we're going to vibe code an application from scratch. I'm going to be acting as the product manager, and Dimitri and Anand are going to help me build the application to my exacting specifications with every feature and functionality. And then we're going to take a look at how does vibe coding do with security, and we'll try to learn a little bit about what are some best practices that we can go around. I mean, we're gonna build something completely from scratch, and we're gonna try to understand how the AI generated code looks like and behave. So feel free as we're doing this to ask questions, to be active in the chat, and we'll kind of go with it as we go along. We're not going through slides today. We're just going through actual code. Before we jump into it, Anand, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Anand. I work here in our program analysis team, worked at Endor for about 3 years, and today we're all about the vibes.
I like how you struggle to like say we're all about the vibes. Embrace it, Anand. It's the
Embrace
future.
it.
Uh, Dimitri, can you give us a quick intro?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Dimitri. I'm the CTO and co-founder here at Endor Labs. And it's exciting to see how technology is evolving and what new challenges we're facing.
Before we dive too deeply into this, there are a couple of things that we're going to be using today. We're going to be using Cursor, I believe, Dimitri.
Yes.
And we're also going to be using the Endor Labs MCP server. You can learn more about it on our blog to scan the AI generated code that we're going to be building. But Dimitri, before we jump in, can you talk a little bit about how AI generated code works? What is AI generated code is trained on? From my perspective, I use a lot of, ChatGPT and Claude and all of these things to generate text. Does it behave generally the same? Is it up to date? Can you give us just kind of a high level intro?
Sure. Let's start with some definitions, right? Because this vibe coding term made it thanks to Andrej Karpathy, right? About a couple of months ago when it became so viral. Let's put it this way, right? So the reality is that LLMs have been trained in a lot of code. Pretty much, I think most models have used every single GitHub repository out there that is open source, and they have been trained on it. And because they are trained on it, they have become increasingly more and more capable of generating code and generating applications. Obviously, the base capability of generating code has been wrapped around with a whole bunch of tools. And we have now tools like Cursor, that has also taken the industry by a storm here because everybody's using it, where they can help you generate a lot of code from abstract ideas as fast as possible. Clearly, there is GitHub Copilot, Google has something, everybody has something. OpenAI has released an agent that can do this as well. So we can expect that over the next 3 to 6 months, I don't even dare to predict what will happen with AI on longer than 6 months. We're going to see even more and more of these tools that allow us to essentially translate basic concepts into code, right? And these tools are becoming better and better every day on achieving that. Now, obviously, the tools are trained based on user-generated code, and they will produce both the good things and the bad things, right? Uh, so if they are trained with a lot of good code, they produce good outcomes. If they are trained with a lot of bad code, they will produce bad outcomes, right? So as everything in life, right, you will have both good and bad on what is created out of these tools.
Yeah.
So, right. And then, that's what we are going to explore today. We're going to go through the process live and see what happens. And I cannot guarantee any outcomes. Good things might happen, bad things might happen, but this is the nature of the beast.
Yeah, Dimitri didn't even know we're actually doing this live until
Correct.
yesterday.
I didn't even know that I don't even know if it will work. So we'll see.
Yeah. And these tools like Cursor, Copilot, by default, without any guardrails, will they pay attention to things like product security best practices or anything like that, or will they try to just make the app work by any means possible?
Right. So we have to understand that these are tools by default, and they are driven by humans, right? Right now, their default behavior is they will not pay a lot of attention to things like quality, proper engineering practices, security, whatever, right? Having said that, one can always drive them with the right prompts to do a better job at taking advantage of this, using this type of input if you want. So you can drive the tool to be more secure, but you have to know what to tell the tool. Now, I will tell you what I'm expecting here to happen in the next in the upcoming months. I think that increasingly people are realizing that these tools are very central to engineering practices, and increasingly a lot of the functionality or a lot of the input that is needed in order to create secure code or good code will be integrated into the tools. What is the catch though? The catch is that we really don't know all the security vulnerabilities out there or all the issues that are coming up every day, right? These tools have been trained, for example, with code that is at least a year old. So a lot of things have happened in the last year. A lot of new security tools have been, security issues have been discovered. A lot of new vulnerabilities have been discovered. So in order for these tools to make the right decisions, they need to be driven by a signal, right? A real-time signal, if you want, of what is the latest and greatest information about vulnerability and security issues, right? So that's why it's the combination of LLMs, it's combination of AI tools with real-time signal that will lead us to a more secure by default code development.
Yeah.
Ron, to kind of tag on to that, these models are only as good as humans, right? They were trained on human-generated data. So the same issues that exist in like human-written code exist here. You're just going to be just as aware. You have to have the same practices here. They aren't sentient. They don't know about, the security practices or anything like that. They're only as good as what you ask them to do.
Yeah.
So you have to prompt them, or you have to have tools that kind of do the security. They're not going to do this out of the box. They're going to generate code what they think is best.
Yeah, although we are kind of going in a direction where eventually we'll have agents taking a look at things like application security, and also they're not sentient yet.
Yet. AGI is not here.
Yeah.
AGI is not here.
It's coming.
But we have to assume that again in the next couple of quarters, right? We're gonna see increasingly that these tools are including and incorporating security signal on their decision-making process, and they will be. We have to expect the evolution to happen. And at the same time, this means they will be generating much more code. There will be many more of these AI-generated applications out there. And, this will have, it will be interesting to see how it will affect the whole AppSec world.
Yeah. Let's get into it. Let's start vibing.
Okay.
Dimitri, are you going to share your screen?
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen. Here.
I maintain it's a pity that Ron's not the one doing the vibe coding here.
I mean, I do have Cursor, but I don't have the paid version.
So
Next time we're doing, by the way, for everybody listening, we're going to do this again on our upcoming Lean AppSec event in May. We'll follow up with more information on that. Anand, if you want on that one, I can vibe code.
Exactly. Everyone here, please comment if you want Ron to vibe code at Lean AppSec.
We'll be here for 3 hours. Yeah, go ahead, Dimitri.
Okay. So let's get started, right? So Ron, what type of application do you want to build?
So I was just on spring break. with my kids. I played a lot of new board games. I would like for us to build a simple app to log my board game collection.
Okay, so as you can see, we're starting from a completely empty slate over here. So build an application that can track a board game collection. I'm not very much into board games collection, so what do you want? Some things you want to include there?
Well, not to make it too complicated, but things we can track is how many players the game is for, or what genre it is, length of the game, these types of things. So I can filter them.
Okay. And I assume we want to build a web app, so we're gonna tell it to, use maybe some familiar stacks. So use a Python backend based on Flask, that is a common Python framework, and use a React and build a React base for the front end. Okay. Okay, sounds like a good description. So we're gonna give the prompt and let's see what it does.
Did you ever use the method of having like ChatGPT build a PRD for you and instructions and then using that? Is that effective?
Yeah, I mean, you can do that. There are a lot of techniques here to improve the outcome, right? And I'm doing the very basic thing that I assume, somebody very entry level would do. Obviously, this is not the state of the art on how to vibe code, but there are a lot of techniques that we can discuss. And while this thing is building is, for example, you can start from a test-driven approach,
Mm-hmm.
and you can say, go, for example, to ChatGPT or go to Claude, whatever your favorite place, and you can say, okay, let's build a PRD first for this app that I want to create. And small interruption here, it wants to create some things. I don't have it in YOLO mode. I need to press the button every time it needs to interact with my system
Mm-hmm.
because I want to protect my system. So,
Yeah.
so as I was saying, right, so you can go to ChatGPT, you can create potentially a PRD, then you can take the PRD. What I have usually found as the most effective is to actually tell it to first generate the tests, right? I didn't want to go through all this process here because it might take some time, but tell it to first generate the test for my application rather than my application itself. So by generating the tests, completely not knowing the implementation, I can look at the tests, validate the tests that they make sense. And then the next prompt becomes now build an application based on that will satisfy these tests, right? So you can do a much more, if you want, elaborate or sophisticated approach to this. Here we just vibed it and said whatever, right? Just do whatever you want to do. And we're going to let the tool actually go and build everything, right? But again, there are techniques and practices you can use in order to get better quality results if you want. Obviously, if you have a large existing repository, you can give it much more guidance, right? You can say, hey, I want to create a package that does exactly this and does exactly that, right? So there are a lot of degrees of freedom out here.
Dimitri wants to bring back test-driven development. For those
Yes.
of you who don't know, for those of you who don't know, test-driven development is a whole movement that existed maybe 20 years ago, which is write things first and then which meets your specification and then go write the production system. And Dimitri's like, no, we got to go back to that now.
Well, it is that, and it's actually another interesting thing that unfortunately tools don't do right now, but another thing from the past, right? We had some discussions, it's literate programming, right? So this is something that actually Knuth created 30 years ago that combines the specification, the natural language, the English language specification of a program with the program itself as part of the code. And actually, that's something that I wish these tools will start giving me pretty soon, is that the prompts that I'm using, they don't save them as part of my code. And I want to see this happening, because that's how I can maintain potentially the code generated by these tools down the road, right? Because again, this tool is going to create a whole bunch of code right now, but then how do I maintain it? What do I do tomorrow if I want to add a feature? I don't even know what prompts generated this code. The tool has no context about what has happened. And so I expect these things to become much more sophisticated in the upcoming months and years. Again, it's AI time, so things move extremely fast. But if you ask me, I expect to see this thing in the very near future.
Well, there's going to be a lot of change in engineering practices. I think version control is going to change, right? I mean, it's not just prompt version control, but how prompt associated with code. Um, it's going to be, it's an interesting time. I think especially if
Right.
you're a software engineering researcher, I'm excited to see, so my background is obviously software engineering research. I'm excited to see the papers that are going to be submitted at the conferences this year about, the challenges of software engineering in the world of AI.
We got a couple of questions here. One is, have you tried utilizing Cursor's rules to specify that it keeps a log of prompting?
Yeah, so yes, you can do these things, and Cursor will start doing that. We have to recognize, though, how this is going to be done in a repository that is common in a large enterprise or organization setting, right? So at some point, we will need tools that will commit the prompts, will keep logs of the prompts, right? Everything that Git gives us for code will start becoming more integrated in our whole Git workflows, right? And this is, I think, something that we haven't seen yet, and I expect it to happen very soon, actually. So just to interrupt here, because this is, it's nice chatting, but this thing actually created something. So it said that it actually did it for us. Great. So it's gonna, it created a backend application with Flask, front end with React and TypeScript. So here are the commands to run it. So let's run it and see what happens.
Let's see if this works.
I didn't run.
It didn't find Python, that's why.
How didn't find Python?
Because it's Python 3 if you want to create the virtual environment, not Python.
We also had a question.
I don't know anything. I'll tell it to vibrate.
We also had a question from James. Can this app also mine Bitcoin surreptitiously for me? No, that's on V2. That's the next iteration of the board game logger.
I mean, I don't know. I'm vibing here, right?
That was, I don't think that was the solution, by the way, but okay. There we go.
I like how you're criticizing.
You see it hallucinated, right? But now it seems to be better. Let's see. Okay, it's doing something.
Okay. There we go.
Okay. I don't know, why does it need local devices? Vibes. Let's say yes.
I mean, to James's point, maybe it's trying to mine Bitcoin as well. So
I mean, might as well.
Help me. Oh, it's generating. Oh, wait, let's see what else is going to generate. Let's move it to the background. Okay.
Okay. And now
Okay, well, we cannot start the UI application. Okay.
So now, can you show the files that it has created on the left?
Sure. So it popped up a browser, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just shows this. I don't see any real thing going on. And see learn React, but that's React Dev.
Well, maybe you should learn React, Dimitri.
Yeah, I think that's what Cursor's trying to tell you. I think it's giving you a sign here.
Hold on. It says Steve front end is generating something. Let's see.
So did we give it any guardrails here on
No,
security or
this
at all,
is
or are we just seeing how it does on its own?
no. This is the default, right? And that's what I'm arguing here. And I'm saying is that the defaults now are very liberal, and they don't really care about security, quality, testing, whatever, right? The defaults of Cursor is free for all, right? So in the hands of a not experienced developer, right, it will just create whatever. My expectation is that most people that are seriously doing software engineering with Cursor, they have rules, they have all kinds of guidelines, they have changed the defaults, right? Here we just went with the secure defaults, if you want, right?
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah. It's interesting the difference between this and the more abstracted vibe coding platforms like Vercel or Base 44, where there it feels like the app will always work. I don't know, of course, how it will behave once you actually deploy it and if it gets any traffic or if it's scalable. And if you ask it about security, it just says, don't worry about it. It's fine.
yeah. So again, the way a lot of platforms, right, that you will see in the internet that they are saying, no code and stuff like that work is in the underlying technology, right? There is much more than giving you an LLM prompt, right? Potentially they have templates, they have pre-existing frameworks, and what they do is they allow the LLM to start filling in the gaps, right? Rather than saying, I'm going to create everything from scratch like
Hmm.
we did here, right? So we will see a whole technology that is developed around these things in order to allow a non-experienced developer to actually take advantage and be able to create. And that's why it's fascinating and exciting, because the more people that can immediately build, right? For anybody that is a builder, right? The more that they can build themselves, the more fun it becomes, right?
Yeah. So today, in actual like real work, when you're using AI generated code, I'm guessing you will use it to build something very small, very specific within a larger project, like
Right,
anything that would be repetitive or
Here,
anything like that.
parse my
right,
JSON, please.
Hmm.
Parse my JSON,
right.
parse my CSV. Stuff that I know that I don't want to write, that I'm bored, and I don't want to actually write code by hand. Yes.
Right. Okay. So it asked me to delete something here, and I was deleting it. As you can see now, because it didn't work, I asked it to figure it out again, and it's just doing stuff. It found some errors here. I'm fixing the errors. It's iterating. Wants to start it again.
Oh, it didn't kill the original one, so now it's like that port's being used, or
Yeah, I think so. Let's try to. I'm gonna stop everything here and tell it stop and give it instructions. Start the front and back end again. Okay, it started it there now. Uh, Here is an interesting warning, right? Uh, that what it created is it created a production deployment,
Hmm.
right? And it says it actually, this is what Python actually says, right? This is not what the LLM tool said,
Yeah.
but it's like, okay, I'm running a development server here, right? So you have to understand, right, that you need to take it to the next level, and we are just doing a, if you want a simple introduction here, but one will have to go and look at this message and then go tell the tool, hey, what are you doing, right? If I want to deploy this in production, I need to do more than this, right? Okay, so it started this again. Okay, and we have
We saw it for a moment. Just before we we
okay,
we we try to make this work. I'm interested for anybody listening. Are you seeing tools like Cursor and Copilot and AI generated code being used in your organizations, or as security people? Is this something that you're seeing that you're having to deal with, or not yet? And Dale is asking if this is being recorded. Yes, absolutely. We're recording this. And we will also, by the way, do this again, another version of this on our next Lean AppSec in May. We'll share a link for that as well. But yes, absolutely, Dale. I'll make sure you get that link.
Okay, so it worked. We got the collection. We can try to add a game. Ron's game. I don't know if it's gonna work end to end or not, but this doesn't matter. It's a strategy game, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a family game, card game, right? It created some stuff.
Very
I
cool.
love this game. Okay, so it created some stuff, right? It looks like a reasonable app. Well, it failed to add the game, but hey, don't,
Hey,
we're
close
not gonna
enough.
spend
The demo is of scanning this for vulnerabilities, not of the vibe coding app working.
close enough, right? Now you can obviously see the code here. Now I see that it has a problem in this code. And I don't know why it has a problem on this code, but it doesn't like the grid here. Anyway, we can ask to fix it or not ask to fix it. So let's see what happened in terms of security, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of security, what we are gonna do right now is we're gonna use an integration with the Endor Labs tools and MCP server.
Could you
In
explain
order
what an
to
MCP server is, real quick?
Yes. So an MCP server is, and the MCP protocol in general is a standardized way that was done by Anthropic first and then adopted by pretty much everybody that allows an LLM to call functionality, if you want, that is locally running in your system or potentially in the internet. And this functionality that the LLM has to rely from a third party, right? Where it becomes very interesting with security is by using an MCP server that is essentially a way to call an API, is that the LLM now can start using information that is real time, or it can in reality get signal from a third party that has much more up-to-date information about things like security issues and so on. And you can see here in Cursor, it's very easy to set it up. Because we can go to the Cursor settings and we can go here to MCP, and we have set up this Endor tools that is our own MCP server. And we're gonna use this MCP server now in order to scan the system for vulnerabilities and other issues, right? So let's start a new window here from the beginning. Use the Endor tools to scan my repository for vulnerabilities. Again, this is something that we are doing manually here, and you see that it's going to call our MCP tool with these instructions. This is something that we are doing manually here. But again, as I said, my expectation is that these integrations will be standard, either driven by rules or by other mechanisms, and the agents will know that they need to rely on these tools in order to hold on. It says fail to invoke. Okay, we have a vibe access here issue. What did it fail?
Oh, you have the same Git thing.
What is the Git thing? Oh, I didn't commit it or something?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try to do that. Are you sure?
That's why we keep you around, Anand.
No, it cannot find the plugin.
It shouldn't have to find plugins because we're running quick scans, no?
Yeah, I know, but well,
to the question about Endor Labs MCP, it's our own in-house tools. We're not using Sneak or anything. It's just, I mean, we're doing our own SES scans, our own source codes.
Yeah. So if I understand correctly, the way that the MCP server works is that it essentially gives you access to whatever entitlement you have with Endor Labs, right? So the SCA scans reach all of the, it could be SCA, SAST secrets, container scanning, essentially all the things you could do with Endor Labs.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So hold on, maybe I did something wrong here when I started the server. So, because I did try it. Let's try one more time to see if we get any better luck here.
So what are you doing now?
I'm reading the error message actually. It says unable.
So Anand, with MCP servers, is the expectation now, because there's a lot of MCP server launches happening, is the expectation now that's similar to how, when I use ChatGPT, I have all these different GPTs to do different things and I train them on like specific projects? Is the expectation now that you as a developer will have all these different MCP servers that you will say, okay, go do a security scan, okay, Endor Labs, or go do whatever, a code security review, or go do these different things, and you'll have an MCP server for each on the
Yes,
back end?
pretty much, right? Like depending on what you want to do, there's also MCPs for just interacting with Postgres, for instance. But you want to ask your Postgres instance for, hey, what's in my database? Give me a schema or whatever.
Go ahead.
It's just all other tools that plug into other third-party sources of data that you can access over a common protocol. And what helps you as a developer, what you care about as a developer is what you can use as an MCP tool. So you can configure your own that you think will make you more productive. In the case of security scanning, yes, because these models don't do that out of the box, like, hey, you want to know the latest vulnerability from 2025, so you can just call Endor Labs' MCP tool, is what we have here with what Dimitri has right now.
Let's try our luck again. I don't know why it's failing me, because it worked just before coming here.
Well, I mean, that's how live demos
guides,
go.
right?
Yeah.
That's what demo guides are doing.
It's called vibe scanning. So
yeah, vibe scanning.
Vibe AppSec, yeah. In the meantime, I'll say that if any of you happen to go to RSA next week, we have our own little, vibe Oasis lounge happening at RSA. So just across the street from the show, you'll see the Endor Labs logo on the W. We have a lounge there, and we have a few events happening there. So you can either swing by the Endor Labs booth on the show floor to get an invite, or reach out to us. You can also go to our website, and you'll find all the different events that are happening there. The one that I'm personally most excited about is the Lego workshop. I'm actually not sure how Pia got them, but the winner of one of the like Master Builder, there was a reality TV show where it was basically a Lego competition. It was the winner of one of the first seasons, Taylor Kleitz. He's doing a Star Wars Lego like build workshop for us at RSA at Trace Lounge, which is going to be amazing.
I just want to say that this event is so exclusive that even I'm not invited, and I'm salty about that.
I mean, we're not going to let anyone in. I feel like I've earned it because I've never gone into one of our lightsaber events, That's
well,
why.
I'm not invited to that either, so.
Hey,
so the tool is actually working now, and it's scanning, so we'll wait.
You're only an honorary member of the marketing team, Anand. You still technically are an engineer.
I gotta escalate this to the founder, we have the co-founder over here in Dimitri.
Okay, so we're waiting for the result. It takes longer than what I thought. Let's see the package lock in the meantime. Look how many dependencies we have. So this is an interesting thing here, right? So while we're waiting for the tool, because it is generating right now, So here is an interesting observation, right? This automated vibe coding created, first of all, you can see that it imported like these packages. This created here, I don't know how many thousands of lines of dependencies, right? So we have here 16,000 lines of dependencies. Now, this is not 16,000 dependencies, but you can see every one of these sections is about 1,600 lines. So it actually, our vibe coding brought in 1,600 dependencies, right? And then we did a basic scan here to find out what happened. And you can see the full results of the scan in the UI we have here. Because that's what I was trying to
Okay,
do.
but this is not the fault of vibe coding, okay? This is NPM.
Well, it is NPM and everything else, right? So let's understand what happened over here, right? This is what our app is reporting right now. First of all, this simple vibe coding section of 20 minutes or whatever we did brought 1,292 dependencies in our code, right? So this is 1,292 things from third parties that got into our code. And, obviously all these things have issues, right? I mean, you can see that our 10 minutes here rely on these hundreds of these thousands almost of dependencies. Then the security scan here identified 65 critical issues and 106 high security issues and 185 medium, right? So we are talking again that within these 10 minutes, we managed to introduce all the security issues, right? Good for us, right? This is how fast we can create security issues in our code during a vibe coding section. And here I'm talking about vulnerabilities, right? So there are only 2 vulnerabilities on third parties. At the same time, we identified 65 critical issues in terms of SAST coding, right? That happened here. I don't know if any secrets were exposed. Fortunately, we didn't expose any secrets, right? And then you essentially get the feeling, right? So this thing just created a bunch of stuff, but now we have to go fix it, right? So now we can start the exercise. Okay, now can you go fix these security issues? And you should expect that what just happened here is where we should see this industry going to, right? That essentially the agent should have enough default behavior to go ask a security tool about what it is doing and what it did, and then use this information to go fix its code, because through an iteration, the agent can start fixing the code, right? Now, I don't know if it's going to take us 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 5 hours to fix all the security issues to begin with, but in theory, it can do a lot of these things, right? So again, it's trying to fix some issues now.
Are we just going to blindly let it upgrade every single dependency?
That was what I was going to ask, right? Because like the traditional problem of noise that we always talk about, right? Like, hey, just go upgrade this. This could potentially break everything else, right?
Yeah, I mean, because again, right, it's a vibe coding session, right? We didn't really do anything here other than say, leave it free to go do whatever it wants. But if you are not alarmed about the amount of issues that this thing created in 10 minutes, right? Let's put it this way. It's going to take you way more time to fix the issues that you created in 10 minutes rather than what the 10 minutes that you created them.
Yeah, there's a great comment here from Greg that he would also ask to see if the number of dependencies can be minimized. So this is the type of thing you can give guardrails on, right? Where you can say...
I mean, we can ask it. The code uses 1,200 dependencies. Is it really needed, or can you minimize the number of dependencies?
Yeah. So Phil is asking, rather than having to iterate after the fact, is there any tooling or even research into providing security-aware contexts to guide the LLM into more sensible patterns at the start? I think what we're saying is that that you have to provide that as you're building the framework for this.
Well,
Would you
it's
agree with that, Dimitri?
actually right now, the state of the art is that no, by default, it doesn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
What is happening is that companies like us and companies like, I'm sure a lot of other vendors as well, or a lot of other practitioners are working on tools that can start giving this feedback to the agents. And sorry, my expectation is that in the next 3-6 months, whatever, right, we are going to see a tight integration that the agents will take the security information into account when they are trying to do these things. So here what it says, right? Now to go back to Greg's question here, right? So it actually did some things that they look reasonable, right? It separated test dependencies from dev dependencies, fixed some upgrade issues, and removed some dependencies that are not needed, right? And then it says delete node module, delete package.json, run npm install. I'm gonna vibe it and say, go ahead and run the commands to fix the issues. And then we'll see if it runs.
I mean, you maybe cut like 5 dependencies or something. It's NPM.
I
I'm
don't know,
sorry.
right? I mean,
1,200
but you see,
dependencies is the standard and the norm.
right.
So I think Greg's question, well relevant, the issue is more the ecosystem here.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the ecosystem and what is happening, right? But again, it's the reason we are doing these things and what we are doing over here is to try to discuss all these trade-offs, right? And
Mm-hmm.
yes, I believe that you should not, like, if you are using tools like Cursor in the production environment, by no means don't let them free for all, right? You need to put rules, you need to put guardrails around them, that whatever they are creating, it has to be validated, because you just saw what happened, right? I mean, as you realize, nothing here is staged. We're just
I
completely
just want to
vibing
say,
it, right?
I just want to say your package number went up. If you scroll up, it added 14, like on the right hand side. If you scroll up, it did 1411 packages now, is what it is
Okay,
in
even
your node
better.
It says,
modules.
"How dare
Well,
you ask for less?"
we'll see, right? We'll run another scan.
So, using when I so a little while ago, I went through a tutorial on YouTube. It was with Windsurf and not with Cursor, but it was the same thing. And there was a section where you could define all these rules that are universal for all of your projects. And it had a lot of things about, okay, I want you to limit the amount of dependencies that you use, or I want you to use these security practices. And then I saw that people are sharing gists of like all of the rules that they're
Right.
using. Do you think where we're going is that you'll essentially have a security agent that will be in charge of making sure, to Phil's point, that that as you're vibe coding, you're more context aware? Because I realize the typical use case is not what we're doing here, which is building everything from scratch, but being more structured in,
Yeah.
I want to build this, little piece of code. I want to build this specific functionality. And that will also make it easier for you to make sure that each component that you build is secure.
Yeah, so definitely, right? It's going to be more incremental and everything, right? Again, this is an extreme case of vibe coding, but the basic guidelines here is that these tools need guidelines, right? They need rules, they need guidelines on what to do, what they cannot do. You don't deploy them and just let them free. And then you validate and check whatever is coming out of these tools. You don't just go and deploy it in production, right? It has to be treated. If you're going to go and build production system with these tools, you have to put guidelines around them. I want to talk about another thing here also that people should be aware. A little earlier, I will start a scan, right, to see what has happened. Scan my repository example.
So you scanned, you asked it to fix it, and now you're scanning
Yeah,
again.
yeah,
And this is all local, right?
yeah. So what I wanted to say is a little bit earlier, like Cursor said, I'm indexing this repo. And when it said I'm indexing this repo, what it essentially does is it takes all the code from here and it uploads them to a vector store, essentially a database, if you want, that allows Cursor to now look at things much faster and so on. If by any chance you have some critical files here, that you have some critical information that you don't want it to be leaked to Cursor, although Cursor says, or whatever, all the other tools say that, we security, whatever practices we follow, and your code is not going to go to other people and blah, blah, blah. If by any chance you put a secret in a file over here, even if the file is not committed into the repo, Cursor is going to index it and send it upstream. It has a standard practice that you can put a cursor ignore index dot cursor ignore index file that, as you can see, didn't create here by default. So in reality, you have to go tell it to go create this dot cursor ignore index file that it's not going to index things that you don't want it to be indexed. For example, it did a git ignore file that says don't put all these files, don't commit all these files in my Git repo. It didn't do a cursor ignore file to say all these files also don't index them because it's you can leak secrets, for example, or you can leak private data, or you can leak whatever, right? So these are basic security omissions. Because these tools have been generated in order to get adoption at this point, we have to expect that these tools will evolve in enterprise environments and start including all kinds of guardrails in order to make them more robust, right? So pay a lot of attention on what your developers are doing with these tools, because you can find yourself in a lot of trouble.
I mean, a fun thing to go do, by the way, on Cursor is type GitHub_token equals to and see the string that it generates right after. And that's the number of GitHub token secrets that have been leaked into the training data or into Cursor. And it actually works.
So yeah, I don't want to do it. I'm on a webinar. I don't want my GitHub tokens to be out
But
there.
it's gonna do it. I'm just saying.
Yeah. But again, you see my point, right? That these tools need guardrails, right? And we all have to work. Some of this is dev practices, some of this is engineering practices. I will talk about another thing. I added an MCP server here. Well, there are all kinds of MCP servers that are going to show up that will do all kinds of things that you don't.
There's a question from Greg. So any recommendation as to what AI code generation tool to use? So I think that both with this, with Cursor, and with Copilot, and with Windsurf, you can still choose the underlying model, right? You can choose if it's Claude
Yes,
or...
you can choose the underlying models for most of them. You can also, I think some of them have the bring your own model where you can bring your own capability there.
Mhm.
But again, it's not the model that I'm concerned about here. It's not the model that is going to leak information. It's mostly it's the tools around the model, right? It's the MCP servers that you have connected. It's the RAG databases that you have connected. It's the third-party providers, right? So we just need to understand that with these tools, we used to worry about dependencies like, oh, these are the dependencies I'm installing into my application. Now you need to worry about all these other dependencies of the tools themselves, right? So the attack surface of potentially bad things happening has just increased dramatically.
I think James is not here anymore, but imagine if one of these MCP tools mines Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean that is possible as well, right? So I'm gonna go back here though to my little lab, because I know the scan finished, but Cursor ran out of memory context there, and it didn't show the results. Interestingly enough, what you will see here is after I told it to reduce the security issues and secure the vulnerabilities, it actually increased them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right?
Can you click on it and see the dependencies of the dependency?
So you see that in the first run, I had 185 medium. Now I have 360. it decreased the two highs, but it increased the mediums and it increased the lows.
And the dependencies, did it change or?
So, and after I told it to increase the dependencies, we had
You-
1200, now we have 1359.
I told you,
Right?
I saw that. I saw the installation. It was,
So yeah, this is what is really happening here. And that's why I'm saying, yes, use the tools, but pay attention to what the tools are doing, right? As every AI tool,
Yeah.
you have to pay extreme attention on the output because it's just, it's it can make a tremendous difference, right? And it really didn't clean. Somehow I see we have duplicate dependencies over here. So, okay,
Yeah.
so that's a little bit the concept over here, right?
Yeah, and I think that so it sounds to me like it's not the issue of which of these tools you're using. It's more about understanding what kind of guardrails you can set down in advance, what kind of
And
noise
how to
this
use them.
creates, right? Because when people say that vibe coding or AI generated code is now gonna 10x the amount of code that's being produced, it's more like it's gonna 10x the amount of people who can generate code and also the amount of dependencies that you generate. It
Right.
sounds like.
Let's put it this way. If I was writing code myself over the last hour while I was talking to everybody else, right, the last 30 minutes, I don't think I would have managed to introduce, 700 findings.
no, you could. Again, it's JavaScript. I just want to say it's JavaScript.
No, but Anand, pay attention to this. A lot of these things are SAST issues.
Oh, it introduced a whole bunch of new SAST issues. There we go.
It introduced a whole bunch of SAST issues as well, right? So again, could I introduce so many? Probably not. But or maybe yes, because when CTOs write code, then that's what happens. But it's again, we have to realize these tools will create more code, they will create more bad code. You need the guardrails, you need all the other systems in place to limit what these things are doing. Right? That's the bottom line of this.
Yeah. So
Oops.
you sent me a note when we were talking about this, and you said we can have a secure by default vibe coding experience by integrating models with proper signal. So when you say proper signal here, what do you mean?
I mean a security tool signal, right? So again, you go through this loop. Essentially, the agent will go automatically through this loop where it generates some code. It passes over the code to some tool that knows how to judge it, if it's secure or not. The tool responds, it fixes issues, regenerates issues. It bears more cycles, it takes longer, but eventually it gets it right? It's not, it's not it will prevent you, if you want, from checking in a whole bunch of things, right? Because if I had done this and checked in the repo, some CI pipeline downstream would have failed and all kinds of things, right? So the iteration with the security tools will be embedded in the agents that these tools are using.
Yeah. So the benefit is that you can actually catch a lot of these things pretty early before they make it all the way
Right.
through the pipeline.
Yeah. And again, it's not just the one tool, right? You should expect that with any LLM that is generating like hundreds of files over here or introducing dependence or whatever, it just doesn't have real-time information, right? So what security tools do, and MCP servers, as we are doing here, is they are letting this feedback loop happen. The same way you have to think it with humans, right? You have a junior developer that does a PR, a senior developer looks at it, gives feedback, iterates. It's the same thing we have to treat the AI agents. And I'm pretty sure they will be in a much better shape 3 months and 6 months down the road. Again, we have to recognize this is a very exciting area. We are at the very, very, very first innings. And I'm just so excited to see these tools evolving, because if I had tried to do these things 3 months ago or 6 months ago, we wouldn't even be close to that, right? So it's just exciting to see these developments going on.
Yeah. We need to wrap up, but a few things just before we go. We jumped into the product without a lot of preamble. If any of you is interested to get a bit of a deeper dive into some of the things that we were doing on the Endor Labs side, on our YouTube channel, If you just search Endor Labs, there's a playlist of just demo videos that you can go through, SAST, SCA, container scanning, all the different things that we were doing here today. And I'll just bring up again, we had a big product launch today. One of the things that we launched was the MCP server. The other thing was AI code security review, which takes a look at all of your pull requests and only surfaces the ones that potentially have security changes to them. All the information about that is on our blog. We will be doing this session again, on our Lean AppSec in May. We put a link to that in the chat, but we will also follow up with that. So if you missed part of this, or if you want to see a follow-up to this, let us know, and we'll do that again in May. And what else? RSA. If you're going to RSA, come meet us there at Trace Lounge or at our booth at RSA. If you see anyone in a Endor Labs t-shirt running around like crazy, it's probably me, or any of us. Feel free to flag us down and have a chat. But I think that's it. A lot of this stuff that we make just based off of the questions that we get. So if there's anything that you want to see us do, if you want to see Dimitri build something, if you want to see Dimitri do more marketing activities, which everybody does, just email us or contact us here in the chat. I'm at ron@endor.ai. Oscar is saying, I hope to get a new lightsaber this year. We're bringing a lot of lightsabers to RSA, so good chance. We also have a photo booth at our booth. It's gonna be crazy. If you're at RSA, come say hi. Anand, Dimitri, thank you so much. I think this is the most fun I've ever had on a webinar.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. It was a lot of
Yeah.
fun.